Atra-Hasis Epic. When the gods instead of man did the work, bore the loads, the gods' load was too great, the work too hard, the trouble too much. The great Anunnaki made the Agigi carry the workload sevenfold. Anu, the father, was king. Their counselor warrior, Enlil, their chamberlain was Ninurta, their canal controller, Inugi. They took the box of lots, cast the lots, the gods made a division. Anu went up to the sky, and Enlil took the earth for his people. The bolt which bars the sea was assigned to far-sighted Enki. When Anu had gone up to the sky and the gods of the Apsu had gone below, the Anunnaki of the sky made the Agigi bear the workload. The gods had to dig out canals, had to clear channels, the lifelines of the land. The gods dug out the Tigris River and then dug out the Euphrates. In the deep, they set up the Apsu of the land. Inside it, raised its top of all the mountains. They were counting the years of loads, the great marsh. They were counting the years of loads. For 3,600 years they bore the excess. Hard work, night and day. They groaned and blamed each other, grumbled over the masses of excavated soil. Let us confront the chamberlain, and get him to relieve us of our hard work. Come, let us carry the Lord, the counselor of the gods, the warrior from his dwelling. Come, let us carry Enlil, the counselor of the gods, the warrior from his dwelling. Then Allah made his voice heard, and spoke to the gods his brothers. Come, let us carry Enlil, the counselor of the gods, the warrior from his dwelling. Now cry battle, let us mix fight with battle. The gods listened to his speech, set fire to their tools, put aside their spades for fire, their loads for the fire god. They flared up. When they reached the gate of warrior Enlil's dwelling, it was night, the middle watch. The house was surrounded, the god had not realized. When they reached the gate of warrior Enlil's dwelling, it was night, the middle watch. The house was surrounded, the god had not realized. It was night, the middle watch. Eker was surrounded, Enlil had not realized. Yet Kalkal was attentive, and had it closed. He held the lock and watched the gate. Kalkal roused Nusku. They listened to the noise of the Agigi. Then Nusku roused his master, made him get out of bed. My lord, your house is surrounded. A rabble is running around your door. Enlil, your house is surrounded. A rabble is running around your door. Enlil had weapons brought to his dwelling. Enlil made his voice heard, and spoke to the vizier Nusku. Nusku, bar your door. Take up your weapons and stand in front of me. Nusku barred his door, took up his weapons and stood in front of Enlil. Nusku made his voice heard and spoke to the warrior Enlil. O my lord, your face is sallow as tamarisk. Why do you fear your own sons? O Enlil, your face is sallow as tamarisk. Why do you fear your own sons? Send for Anu to be brought down to you. Have Enki fetched into your presence. He sent for Anu to be brought down to him. Enki was fetched into his presence. Anu, king of the sky, was present. Enki, king of the Apsu, attended. The great Anunnaki were present. Enlil got up, and the case was put. Enlil made his voice heard, and spoke to the great gods. Is it against me that they have risen? Shall I do battle? What did I see with my own eyes? A rabble running around my door. Anu made his voice heard, and spoke to the warrior Enlil. Let Nusku go out, and find out the word of the Agigi, who have surrounded your door. A command, too. Enlil made his voice heard, and spoke to the vizier Nusku. Nusku, open your door, take up your weapons, and stand before me, in the assembly of all the gods. Bow, then stand, and tell them, your father Anu, your counselor warrior Enlil, your chamberlain Ninurta, and your canal controller Inugi have sent me to say, who is in charge of the rabble? Who is in charge of the fighting? Who declared war? Who ran to the door of Enlil? Nusku opened his door, took up his weapons, went before Enlil in the assembly of all the gods. He bowed, then stood and told the message. Your father Anu, your counselor warrior Enlil, your chamberlain Ninurta, and your canal controller Inugi have sent me to say, who is in charge of the rabble? Who is in charge of the fighting? Who declared war? Who ran to the door of Enlil? Enlil. Every single one of us declared war. We have put a stop to the digging. The load is excessive. It is killing us. Our work is too hard. The trouble too much. So every single one of us gods has agreed to complain to Enlil. Nusku took his weapons, went and returned to Enlil. My lord, you sent me to. I went. I explained, saying every single one of us gods declared, we have put a stop to the digging. The load is excessive. It is killing us. Our work is too hard. The trouble too much. So every single one of us gods has agreed to complain to Enlil. Enlil listened to that speech. His tears flowed. Enlil spoke guardedly, addressed the warrior Anu. Noble one, take a decree. With you to the sky show your strength. While the Anunnaki are sitting before you, call upon God and let them cast him for destruction. Anu made his voice heard and spoke to the gods his brothers. What are we complaining of? Their work was indeed too hard. Their trouble was too much. Every day the earth resounded. The warning signal was loud enough. We kept hearing the noise. Do, task. While the Anunnaki are sitting before you, and while Belatili the womb goddess is present, call up one and cast him for destruction. Anu made his voice heard and spoke to Nusku. Nusku, open your door, take up your weapons, bow in the assembly of the great gods, then stand and tell them, your father Anu, your counselor warrior Enlil, your chamberlain Ninurta, and your canal controller Inugi have sent me to say, who is in charge of the rabble? Who will be in charge of battle? Which god started the war? A rabble was running around my door. When Nusku heard this, he took up his weapons, bowed in the assembly of the great gods, then stood and told them, your father Anu, your counselor warrior Enlil, your chamberlain Ninurta, and your canal controller Inugi have sent me to say, who is in charge of the rabble? Who is in charge of the fighting? Which god started the war? A rabble was running around Enlil's door. Ea made his voice heard and spoke to the gods his brothers. Why are we blaming them? Their work was too hard. Their trouble was too much. Every day the earth resounded. The warning signal was loud enough. We kept hearing the noise. There is. Belatili the womb goddess is present. Let her create a mortal man so that he may bear the yoke. So that he may bear the yoke, the work of Enlil. Let man bear the load of the gods. Belatili the womb goddess is present. Let the womb goddess create offspring, and let them bear the load of the gods. They called up the goddess and asked the midwife of the gods, wise Mami, who are the womb goddess to be the creator of mankind? Create a mortal that he may bear the yoke. Let him bear the yoke, the work of Enlil. Let him bear the load of the gods. Nintu made her voice heard and spoke to the great gods. It is not proper for me to make him. The work is Enki's. He makes everything pure. If he gives me clay, then I will do it. Enki made his voice heard and spoke to the great gods. On the 1st, 7th, and 15th of the month, I shall make a purification by washing. Then one god should be slaughtered, and the gods can be purified by immersion. Nintu shall mix the clay with his flesh and blood. Then a god and a man will be mixed together in clay. Let us hear the drumbeat forever after. Let a ghost come into existence from the god's flesh. Let her proclaim it as her living sign. And let the ghost exist so as not to forget the slain god. They answered yes in the assembly, the great Anunnaki who assigned the fates. On the 1st, 7th, and 15th of the month, he made a purification by washing. Ilawela, a god who had intelligence, they slaughtered in their assembly. Nintu mixed clay with his flesh and blood. They heard the drumbeat forever after. A ghost came into existence from the god's flesh, and she, Nintu, proclaimed it as a living sign. The ghost existed so as not to forget the slain god. After she had mixed that clay, she called up the Anunnaki, the great gods, the Igigi, the great gods, spat spittle upon the clay. Mami made her voice heard and spoke to the great gods. I have carried out perfectly the work that you ordered of me. You have slaughtered a god together with his intelligence. I have relieved you of your hard work. I have imposed your load on man. You have bestowed noise on man. You have bestowed noise on mankind. I have undone the fetter and granted freedom. They listened to the speech of hers and were freed from anxiety and kissed her feet. We used to call you Mami, but now your name shall be Mistress of all gods. Far-sighted Enki and wise Mami went into the room of fate. The womb goddesses were assembled. He trod the clay in her presence. She kept reciting an incantation, for Enki, staying in her presence, made her recite it. When she had finished her incantation, she pinched off 14 pieces of clay, and set 7 pieces on the right and 7 on the left. Between them she put down a mud brick. She made use of a reed, opened it to cut the umbilical cord, called up the wise and knowledgeable womb goddesses, 7 and 7. 7 created males, 7 created females, for the womb goddess is creator of fate. He, them 2 by 2, them 2 by 2 in her presence. Mami made these rules for people. In the house of a woman who is giving birth, the mud brick shall be put down for 7 days. Belatili, wise Mami, shall be honored. The midwife shall rejoice in the house of the woman who gives birth, and when the woman gives birth to the baby, the mother of the baby shall sever herself, a man to a girl. Her bosom, a beard can be seen, on a young man's cheek, in gardens and waysides, a wife and her husband choose each other. The womb goddesses were assembled, and Nintu was present. They counted the months, called up the 10th month as the term of fates. When the 10th month came, she slipped in a staff and opened the womb. Her face was glad and joyful. She covered her head, performed the midwifery, put on her belt, said a blessing. She made a drawing in flour and put down a mud brick. I myself created it. My hands made it. The midwife shall rejoice in the house of the Kaditstu priestess. Whenever a woman gives birth and the baby's mother severs herself, the mud brick shall be put down for 9 days. Nintu, the womb goddess, shall be honored. She shall call their Mami. She shall, the womb goddess, lay down the linen cloth. When the bed is laid out in their house, a wife and her husband shall choose each other. Ishtar shall rejoice in the wife-husband relationship in the father-in-law's house. Celebration shall last for 9 days, and they shall call Ishtar Ishhara. On the 15th day, the fixed time of fate, she shall call. A man cleaned the home, the son to his father, they set, he was carrying. He saw, Enlil, they took hold of, made picks and spades, made big canals, to feed people and sustain the gods. 600 years, less than 600 passed, and the country became too wide, the people too numerous. The country was as noisy as a bellowing bull. The god grew restless at their racket, and Lil had to listen to their noise. He addressed the great gods. The noise of mankind has become too much. I am losing sleep over their racket. Give the order that Suruppu disease shall break out. Now there was one Atrahasis, whose ear was open to his god Enki. He would speak with his god, and his god would speak with him. Atrahasis made his voice heard and spoke to his lord. How long will the gods make us suffer? Will they make us suffer illness forever? Enki made his voice heard and spoke to his servant. Call the elders, the senior men. Start an uprising in your own house. Let the heralds proclaim. Let them make a loud noise in the land. Do not revere your gods. Do not pray to your goddesses, but search out the door of Namtara. Bring a baked loaf into his presence. May the flour offering reach him. May he be shamed by the presence and wipe away his hand. Atrahasis took the order, gathered the elders to his door. Atrahasis made his voice heard and spoke to the elders. I have called the elders, the senior men. Start an uprising in your own house. Let the heralds proclaim. Let them make a loud noise in the land. Do not revere your gods. Do not pray to your goddesses, but search out the door of Namtara. Bring a baked loaf into his presence. May the flour offering reach him. May he be shamed by the presence, and wipe away his hand. The elders listened to his speech. They built a temple for Namtara in the city. Heralds proclaimed. They made a loud noise in the land. They did not revere their god, did not pray to their goddess, but searched out the door of Namtara, brought a baked loaf into his presence. The flour offerings reached him, and he was shamed by the presence, and wiped away his hand. The Sarukpu disease left them. The gods went back to their regular offerings.